Alright, hello everyone and welcome to the Age of Sigmar narrative show. I'm your host Luke and joined as always by my co-host Andrew. How are you, buddy?
Not too bad, mate. Been a long 2 weeks, but we're getting there.
Yep, I think that's the way it always is. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do a bit of a different topic today. We're not going to talk about narrative as like an army narrative. We're going to talk about why you should attend tournaments and events. And this is coming from the perspective of myself, who is probably somewhere in the middle, narrative and competitive, and Andrew, who is much more on the narrative side of things than I am. But really want to chat about why you should attend events. They're not just for tournaments and smashing face and winning at all costs. There's lots more that you can do with this.
Yep.
But we'll get into that because we have news, and boy howdy, do we have news to talk about. Anyone in the chat, let us know if our audio is okay. We know we had some issues last week, so if anything is going awry, just let us know. We'll do our best. We are trying to do this better and better each time.
Yep.
So, we will start with, let's start with the biggest news. The Ossiarch Bone Reapers.
Yeah.
Oh.
It kind of surprised me. As much as they're death, they're almost, I don't know, because they're constructs rather than undead per se. So
yeah, I think compared to the other death, this is probably the most Age of Sigmar death we've gotten, I think.
Yeah, my D&D brain kind of kicked in, and it's like, hang on, they're not undead. Because they're almost like bone golems.
Yeah, well, it's essentially what they are. Effectively, it's I saw the best post I think about it was had the anything you can do, I can do deader. They are, I guess, what everyone's saying, bone cast. Similar sort of thing as like Nagash has been doing all this weird, wacky necromantic science, and has figured out he can smash a whole bunch of souls together and make these warriors.
Like the anti-Stormcast.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see rules on the table to see if they are like a direct threat to Stormcast.
Yeah, it's sort of poor people are saying it's right. It's basically Nagash has gone, well, if that pussy Sigmar can do this, watch what I can do,
Yeah. Oh, you take one soul and put it in some armor with some lightning? I'm going to take 20 souls and make one warrior out of 20 souls because I have lots of souls.
Check this
out. Yeah. Check this mad flip.
Challenge accepted.
But yeah, so besides like the obvious, I guess, taken abackness, like I myself was taken aback a little. It's just like, oh, this is different. This is cool. What did you think of them?
Honestly, I'm a bit out at the moment. I'm not a huge fan of the paint jobs. I can see the potential in those models. In particular, the Mortarch. I don't know. I think with a slightly different paint job, a bit of different focus, I think it'll be outstanding. But I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. Like the concept's excellent. I think some of the sculpts are really good. But it's been that way with a couple of the later Sigmar releases. Like, you look at it and you go, oh yeah, and then you say when someone gets hold of it and they do a really good paint job on it, it's like, oh wow. But at the time, you think, yeah, I'm not sure. Until I see some other people getting some paint in them, I'm going to hold out, I think.
Yeah, I think, they're certainly probably one of the most divisive factions I've seen released. I haven't, I guess all these ones sort of are. You always get it, like the Ironeth got it as well because everyone. Yeah. And then obviously the KO got it because KO was the shock that this exists in a fantasy universe like KO. But I think the biggest thing, and we'll hit it on the head, is that they're not Tomb Kings.
Yes, indeed.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but when Idoneth came out, we had the same issue that people kept going, they're going to be Cthulhu elves.
Yeah.
Despite everything, it was just this few people that made a loud noise about them being Cthulhu elves, and you're like, no, 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 no. None of the rumors say that. They all say Atlantean.
Yeah. Yeah. I think too with the Tomb Kings, a lot of it was wish listing.
Yeah.
The Tomb Kings have got that hardcore following.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't get me wrong, I
and
love Tomb Kings, but
yeah, not really my thing. But I mean, I understand why people love them. But I've never really been a death player, even back in fantasy days.
yeah. Yeah, just sort of has been that one that's always eluded me. But like I could get why people like Tomb Kings. But yes, I think that was like a big issue when they first came out. People were like, this isn't Tomb Kings. But then they've got
Yep.
some sort of slight Tomb King things, like a catapult with magical
Yeah, the Screaming
ammunition.
Skull colour. Yeah, yeah. It's clearly the new age Screaming Skull catapult.
Yeah. Um, there were some other like cool models. Well, we'll talk about the Mortarch, Catacross.
Mm.
He
Yep.
he's the best model that got revealed. He's fantastic.
Yeah. Like I say, it looks spectacular. I'm just not sold on the colours.
Yeah.
I think with a bit of imaginative painting, I think he's going to be awesome. It's interesting though they've gone with that little diorama-y thing.
Well,
Like,
I don't know if you found out how it fights.
no, I don't know. I haven't seen
Okay.
it.
So what they said in the Q&A was he fights as he degrades, but you fight through like his servants before he deigns to fight you.
Righto.
So you fight like
Okay.
the first little
Yeah, all the
dude,
peons. Yeah.
and then the next little dude, and then the big dude, and the other big dude, and eventually Catacross goes, maybe you're an actual challenger. I'll come fight now.
Okay. Well, that's pretty cool, I guess. Yeah.
Very Xerxes.
Yeah. Fight all my minions.
But yeah, so they were really cool, and we'll get to know more of them because they will be released in October.
Yep. Yeah. There's been a lot of stuff on the going around the forums of, it's Tyranids and Necrons smashed together. And I was like, it's not really. It's just simply that the pose of one of the forearm constructs, and people have decided that. So
Yeah, I think that's the point to make. Like, these aren't supposed to look human in any way. They are constructs. They can look like whatever Nagash decided they want to look like.
yeah, he really is doing the anything Sigmar can do thing.
Yeah. So we have got some other Age of Sigmar reveals as well. We've got a little bit of Warcry, which actually is coming out next week as well.
Yeah, the beasts bit. Yeah.
Monsters and Mercenaries.
Yeah, not sure how that'll flesh out. Actually, I'm really quick to be throwing that sort of level back in. Like, guess we'll see.
Yeah, I'm probably more excited for the monsters more than the mercenaries. I think. Being able to go out and fight big monsters, and then all those terrible monsters I can never put on the table because they're even too terrible to take to soft events.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I don't know. Like, it just seems it's pretty weird that we kind of just had the release with the warbands, and then we sort of escalate it to the monstery stuff. Like, okay, all right, well, this was obviously on the plan, so see how we go.
Yeah, most certainly. I think that was it for Warcry. Yeah, we didn't get any other Warcry teasers or anything like that. No showing of those other two Chaos Warbands, the Spire Tyrants and the Cult of Flame or whatever they were.
Yeah, the Akshi ones.
Yeah, the Akshi and the Varanspire dudes. But Underworld's got nothing as well. I was quite surprised by nothing with Underworld, although there's something I read a little bit into it. It was to do with like there's a big Grand Clash world tournament thing coming. I didn't read too much into it.
Yeah, but yeah, I was surprised too. Given we got the rumor last time with the Kernothy, I kind of expected them to say here they are, but
Here's the box.
yeah.
Um,
But as you say, if there's a big event coming up, well, we'll probably see them there.
yeah. I guess that was it from Nova for AOS. I'm pretty sure that was it.
Yep.
Yeah, it was mostly just Bone Dudes. The Bone Dudes are like a massive portion of it, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the other little piece of information is that we got told in the Q&A that they just like sort of offhanded going like, oh, we're not really going to answer anything about Auric Walklands or Cities of Sigmar because it's so close it's not worth having a discussion now about.
Yeah, which is really good because I want them for Sydney GT.
But unfortunately, you will be waiting at least one more week because, as we said, the Warcry thing is already coming out, but so is GoTrek.
Yes. See, I would have thought they would have brought GoTrek out with Cities of Sigmar, but no, apparently not.
Yeah, it's to coincide with the release of the novel.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, the Ghoulslayer is coming out. The second installment of GoTrek in the Mortal Realms in a full story. I'm quite looking forward to digging into that because Realm Slayer was fantastic.
Yeah. Of course, that helps that Brian Blessed's doing the voice.
Yeah. Ghoulslayer, however, is a full novel.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be amazing. I just loved GoTrek's like character in the Mortal Realms. How he's how many of us were when we first saw Age of Sigmar, and you started going, "That's not fantasy. That's not fantasy." And that's literally what GoTrek does.
Yeah, he's a colossal neckbeard.
It's fantastic.
That's not what elves do.
Fair enough. I don't like you, but I'm a good guy working for Sigmar. No, don't like you.
And then you're not a real dwarf.
Yeah. But yeah, so GoTrek comes out next week as well, which I'm going to go get GoTrek because GoTrek is awesome. And that model is awesome if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
I know it made Dan Brewer cry a bit though, because he's like, there's so many dead Skaven, but...
Always funny.
Yeah, so I guess into some hobby time. What have you been up to this week?
Well, I was desperately trying to get my Astral Vipers 40k finished for the event for HammerCon that I went to this weekend just gone. Didn't quite get there because of various things to do with my delightful place of work. And our hot water heater exploding, and my wife hitting a brew in the car, and so it was been a good couple of weeks. But yeah, so I got 90% of them done. I just didn't quite get the last few bits and pieces finished. But at the weekend at HammerCon, I played any 40k for about 2 years, so I went down there and gave that a go, and yeah, it's pretty good.
No, nice. So, well, myself, I've been working on getting ready for Cities of Sigmar. We've got some Demigryph Knights on the paint table.
Been watching them coming along.
They are such cool models. And so they should hopefully be done this week. All 6 of them, because I'm also getting them done for Armies on Parade, which I'm working towards.
Yeah, it's coming up shortly.
Yep. So probably get them some infantry, and I've got a dragon and a couple more stormcasts to finish up, and that'll be done. But that's pretty much. Oh, and then I played a game today, and I made a battle report, and the battle report's on the channel.
Yep, saw that.
Scourge Privateers and Gutbusters, so it's just testing out, and so we'll go from there with them. Hopefully, see some more.
Yep.
And well, I guess last do a bit of shout outs. I've got one that I'm actually working on something with Dan from AOS Shorts. So this is for anyone who produces Age of Sigmar content. Myself and Mr. Dan from AOS Shorts are putting together a weekly newsletter, TV guide, and directory for Age of Sigmar content. So if you or anyone you know makes Age of Sigmar content, please get in contact with me and gets your content put into this directory. It'll effectively be a one-stop place to find anything and everything Age of Sigmar that's out there on the internet, from blogs to YouTube channels to podcasts, painting stuff, whatever. And then the TV guide will be for shows just like this one that appear on a regular basis. So things like Warhammer Weekly and Honest Wargamer and all that sort of stuff that are regular shows every week. There'll be like a TV guide of this is when this is on, this is when this is on. And then the last one will be a weekly newsletter, which will be focusing on all Age of Sigmar content to come out in the week prior, along with focuses on particular channels or blogs or whatever, and just chatting about certain things.
Cool.
Anything you want to give a shout out to at all?
The TAOR guys, which is a Defence Force Wargaming Society, they're the guys that ran HammerCon. They also run Anzac Cup, which has multiple systems around, obviously, Anzac Day. I went to their Sigmar event this year. Yeah, so they've got content coming out pretty regularly, events coming out, so check them out. They're on Facebook.
Awesome. Yeah, I've seen quite a few of their events. Obviously, knew all about Anzac Cup, and one of my mates has just flown over to Melbourne, and because he's just got shifted in the army. So,
yep.
Yeah, no.
It's got a pretty vibrant gaming community in the armed forces. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely go give them a check out. All right. So, into I guess our topic of the week, which is why should you, as a narrative player, as a casual player, as a budding competitive player, as any player really, go to events and tournaments, and what can they give you, and what can you give them?
Yeah.
So, well, we'll go back to, I guess, the start of what we went. I myself am probably, I fall, I guess, in the middle. I like to play competitive, but I also like my narrative as well. And I know the distinction between the two.
Yeah.
So I can choose what I want to go to an event as.
Yeah. See, I've never really been competitive. I mean, a little bit when I was younger, when I first started, many years ago. But with the sort of stresses of work life and stuff, I'd really rather go and play and tell a story, which is what brings me into the hobby anyway. It's the story. So yeah, I'm narrative above competitive by a long way.
No, that's cool. And it's fine. And it's worth mentioning that neither is mutually exclusive. And especially in Age of Sigmar, like, we'll get onto some things like that, especially Andrew's winning record at events. So, I guess the first question is, why do you go to events? What do you get out of them?
Well, there's a couple of reasons to go. I personally go to events. I mean, first and foremost, it's a chance to play a variety of opponents and a variety of armies. I obviously live in rural New South Wales, so my opponents are limited. So I tend to play the same armies over and over again, which, you know, as much as it's cool, you're playing mates and stuff, it's not really the same as getting that spread of opponents and that spread of armies. And every time you go to an event, you're going to have one of those moments where it's, I've never played them before.
Yeah.
And that's really cool to have that experience. On top of that, for a lot of people, myself included, sometimes it's the best way to get games. If you can't get those regular games happening, an event, especially a 2-day event, that's like, 5 games in 2 days that tide you over till the next one. And as much as like whenever I put an army together, regardless of what system it's from or what faction it's from, I won't do it until I've got a story, and then I, intentionally hamstring myself a lot of the time with my options. Like I won't take something if it doesn't fit my story. And what that means is sometimes when you do come up against the real hardcore competitive guys, you might get trounced, but if what you're there for is your story, then it still advances your narrative. You think, okay, well, I took my force of Skaven clan rats because there's only a warlord and clan rats and none of the scryer stuff, and I got owned. And so then you go home and you add a bit to your narrative, and you go, okay, well, now the warlord's gone to start begging some clan scryer guys for some Jazales because he got owned by the Deepkin flying in on their sharks and eating his clan rats. So from a narrative perspective, there's always not an excuse, I guess, but a reason to continue that story, to continue that narrative, and that's a great reason to go to an event.
Yeah, I think that's hit it on the head, really. Like, especially the first point, like, it is an excuse to get 5 or 6, 3, 4, whatever games in a small amount of time against a variety of people. Some you've never met and some you never played. I think in a year of tournaments, and that's going to the same, like most of them with my local South Australian crew, I've played the same person once across all events. And I've played new armies and things I've never played, or because in Adelaide we're quite spread out in Adelaide. It's like quite a, not a necessarily built up city, but quite a dense, or like really well spread out city over here. And so it's hard to get games against some of the guys that live like down south compared to me where I'm right up north. And just being able to, my regular gaming crew, like you said, is quite small. And I'll play the same armies again and again and again. And that's cool, but it's nice to go and play armies that I've never played before, or I can't remember the last time I played that particular army.
Yeah. And there's that, the social aspect as well. And look, I mean, I'm not going to say that every single person you play is going to be, your best mate, because it's not. I mean, there's always some people that you think, okay, well, probably wouldn't play you if I had the choice at home. But 99% of the time, you meet, especially in Sigmar, the guys you meet are there for the, if not similar reasons, then reasonably similar reasons to you, and you have a good time. Because it is a social hobby.
Yeah, I think, and that's something to be aware of. I probably started going to events properly just about a year and a half ago now. Properly. I went to GoWeCon a couple of years ago. That was my first event. And you always have that worry that you're like, oh, is it going to be like super competitive or whatever. I ended up coming 5th, and I had an absolute blast. Like, most people that go to events are not going there with an intent to win them. You might have people that have an intent to do well or a winning record, but you're very unlikely to find someone who is going there to win.
Yep, there's always one or two, but they're not the majority.
No. And they're probably at the bigger events, where I guess winning at a bigger event probably means a lot more to some people. Which is fine, like, 200 player event. We'd all like to win that 200 player event and say, I won a 200 player event.
Yeah.
Everyone can say, yeah, that'd be a cool thing to be able to do. But yeah, getting back to the point, it's likely that the majority of people you play are going to be going there with the intent of just playing 5 or 6 games and having a good time.
Yeah. And as I said, I've yet to come across any of those really hardcore sort of guys at any Sigmar event I've played at. There's some people that come and they play hard, but it's not as negative as some of the events I've been to in the past. Because there are some events you can get to in multiple systems where hardcore win is everything. And that's not the case I found with Sigmar. I think the hobby side of it's really important for everyone. And just seeing other people's armies is the other thing. Getting to experience, like, and saying to people, oh, wow, how'd you get that effect on the armor? Or, well, how'd you do that base? And things like that. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think, and that's probably something I'd like to mention, especially here in Australia for us. Sports and painting are really hotly contested things. Like, people take quite a large amount of pride in such trophies. Whether or not we'll move past the debate of whether or not sports and painting scores should have taken into account for battle points and all that sort of stuff. Move that aside. That's a completely different debate that I don't want to take part in. But it's good to see that even events that choose to separate or put it together, regardless, have trophies for sportsmanship and painting.
Yeah. And most of the Sigmar events now are sort of even going down that. So one for painting, one just for coolest army.
Yeah, so a player vote and a technical vote.
Yeah, which is not because they're not necessarily the same thing, which is really cool.
No, I think we can look at the ever chosen painting competition that GW are run. That is best army, not best painted.
Yeah.
Because it's fan vote. You can paint up a really good model in drab greens and it's not going to win against that really good model painted in yellow that's not quite as good.
Yeah. And I mean, on some level, that's the coolest army side of things. Like, if you can have the best technically painted army in the world, but if it's all blacks and greys, it doesn't grab a lot of the audience.
Yeah, but it will grab
whereas
the judge.
The ones that aren't, whereas the ones that aren't necessarily the most technically well painted, but look spectacular, are the ones that are going to get the votes.
Yeah.
And I like that. Like it means there's a difference. The same people don't win it every time, and
Yeah, I think. Well, we can probably talk about like CanCon on that. That the same people did not win the awards. I remember the top two for best army, which was like or coolest army, whatever you want to call it, was Blake Kerwick and Aussie Wargamer.
Yep.
And that army
legend, Aussie Wargamer, legend.
And if you haven't seen Blake Kerwick stuff, I believe he's got a show on Down Under Sigmar with the coach, and you can see some of his stuff. He is amazing at some of his hobby.
Yeah.
But then on the painting award, it was Danny Paints and I forget the name of the other Free Guild player. But two Free Guild armies won the technical, I guess, side of it, the best painted.
Because Free Guild armies just look spectacular when they're done.
Yeah, and if you've seen Danny Paint stuff, he's really
Yeah, Danny Paint's absolute legend.
Yeah. So I guess the next part I want to talk about is sort of your games, and there can be some bad outcomes. You've mentioned that yes, you can get drawn against some bad matchups that just a player that is going there to win or whatever. However, if you draw them in round one, you're probably never going to face one of them again. Because you'll be put back down into the middle. And so, yes, this might sound crappy, but you might have a bad game one. Or you might not have the most enjoyable. You make your enjoyment. Like, this player might come with a tooled up list, but you can go, well, I'm just going to kill your general. And this is where secondaries in events I find are really good, because they can alleviate some of this. You go, well, I've got a secondary to kill your general, and all I care about in this, your army's going to wipe me off the table. I don't care, but I'm going to get your general.
Yeah. And most of the events down here too, you have the option of grudging someone in the first round as well.
Yeah.
So so if you got that person that you only ever see at events, call them out, have a good game in your first round.
Yeah. Grudges are a great way to sort of avoid this situation. Because I find if you have a grudge, You're going to start on the right foot, playing someone you enjoy playing, and you're going to end on the right foot because by that point you'll be sorted out to where you should be against someone with a similar, I guess, mentality or army strength to you.
Yep.
So we'll talk about things that we like at events and things we've seen across events that we thought have been really cool, and probably we'll have the chat as well about things we haven't liked at events.
Yep.
Because I think both are good. And the important thing to remember about events that you go to is that you don't have to go to every event that comes up in your local area. You go to the ones that appeal to you.
Yeah.
There might be like a scoring system you don't like, or there might not be enough emphasis on painting that you don't like. And so you just don't go. Like if you want an event to change, vote with your feet. And if the event's doing good, vote with your feet and go.
And there are Sigmar has exploded in Australia, and we have events nearly every weekend somewhere.
There'll be something somewhere.
So if you have a specific style you want to go to, you can find it. You just don't have to go to the other one.
Yeah. It comes to the point where we've got major GTs on the same weekend because we've got so many events.
Yep.
But yeah, so I guess what are for you some key things that make an event worth your time?
I think the most important one for me is that hobby is appreciated. That's the one thing that'll get me to an event. Like if there isn't prizes for not even necessarily prizes. If there isn't some sort of recognition of hobby, modelling, story, things like that, I'm unlikely to want to go. Which, I mean, it's not that I dislike the gaming side of it, but from my perspective, it's a small part. So for me, it's the hobby and having my little toys on the tabletop emulate the story I have written and the story that I have going on in my head. So if that's recognised, I'm there. The ones that are more hardcore competitive, probably not something I'm particularly interested in. That being said, I think even some of the more competitive events in Australia in the last 12 months have had aspects of the event that relate more to hobby than just gaming. So things like the I know they're a bit contentious, but things like the realm rules and things like that, which I actually really enjoy because it helps with the storytelling. I like them. I like going to those sorts of events. It doesn't mean I won't go to others, but I'm more likely to go to those ones.
Yeah. All right. I guess for me, very much the same. It has to have options of what I can do to attend the event. I like being able to choose an event or go to an event and be able to compete in everything. I don't like just going to an event just to go to play and go to a tournament and that's try and win. I like knowing that my painting will get some score and my friendliness on the tabletop or sportsmanship will get some score. Whether or not that's calculated into total scores, who knows, who cares. But it's good to see that those things and the right sort of and the general attitude they bring to tournaments is great. Just including such things. I think by just having sports scores, whether they're included in tournaments or not, tournament counting, point counting or not, is great.
Yeah.
So, we talked about what we liked. What is something that, I guess, for anyone who does make tournaments, what's something that puts you off going to a tournament? If anything.
I think there's a couple of things that'll put me off. The most important one is if battle is everything. Like if the only thing that's scored is winning, then I'm probably not going. And that's not because I don't think you should win games. It's just because that's not the most important part for me. And there are other sort of more matter of fact decisions as well. Like if the event is a long way away, which is obviously an option in Australia, I'm unlikely to go simply financial reasons.
We spend a lot on this hobby in Australia. It costs quite a bit to travel.
Yeah. Like a lot of the Brisbane guys keep sort of saying, come and play in Brisbane, come and play in Brisbane. And it's like, well, yeah, I'd like to, but for me, that's 2 to 2.5 hour drive to an airport. The closest being Canberra, which doesn't have as regular flights. Then the cost of airfares, then accommodation, and $70 entry fee ends up costing me $1,000.
Yeah.
So there's that to consider.
Yeah, of course. And I don't think we'll touch on that, and we'll continue that thought into something I want to chat about next. Obviously, location is very important, and we'll continue this in the next one and talk something about if you're deciding to make events. But for me, it's just I enjoy an event where everything is appreciated, and if an event is just solely on killing everyone, it's not as appealing as I might not have the best painted army, but I like the guy with that amazing army I see to get something for his efforts.
Yeah.
Or not necessarily get something, but just get a shout out or, whatever.
Yeah.
And so we'll move on to the next thing, which is location. And so this is more aimed, I guess, this part at people organising events more than those attending. And how important putting a location together is. Now, because we've recently had we had the SAGT here, and in Adelaide we have a lot of our gaming clubs actually up north, and our airport is down south. So the gaming clubs effectively became unusable. The only gaming club down south is quite small. So when you're organising locations for events, you need to make sure, especially I guess in a country like Australia, where we're so spread out, that you have easy access, so that your tournament is near, I guess, a bus depot or an airport or whatever, or a train line. Because it becomes such a major thing that you need to do. Is trouble. And of course you need to make sure there's actual hotels and stuff nearby. You don't want to have this tournament or this event in a place and there's nowhere for people to stay within 5 kilometres.
And food is another consideration?
Yep, most certainly. Take into account, if you don't have food close by, so if there's not a Macca's, if there's a Macca's or a fish and chip shop down the road, it's a 5-minute walk, you can put an extra bit of time on your lunch break and you don't have to worry about it. But if lunch isn't nearby, you need to make sure you organise food for everyone.
Yep.
But yeah, I think, anyway, off of that, sort of talking, I guess, to TOs and all that, we'll probably start wrapping up soon. There's not a lot more I want to talk about on this, really, but the last part, I guess, is overall thoughts, or a summary. Going to events is a great thing, and it is something what's the term they use? It's a celebration of hobby rather than an actual tournament in itself. You've got so many people at these events for so many different reasons. You'll probably find people just like you. I mean, you have those painting nominations. If you're going there just for the painting nomination, playing the game is secondary to you. Well, you'll go look at those people with those other painting nominations when they all get set up nice, and you go, oh, and you'll start talking to people, and you'll find your bit that you get that enjoyment from there.
Yeah.
Now, I urge anyone who hasn't attended a tournament or an event to go to one, because even if you've got the what you think is the worst army, even if you've got an army of shadow blades, um, go to an event. You won't regret it at all. I've yet to be to an event that I wouldn't go back to, and yeah, that is my any part. Go to events, go have a blast, make new friends. Like I've met Andrew. That's how me and him know each other, is events. That's how I know
Yeah.
so many people in the Age of Sigmar community in Australia. Um, it's just meeting people at events. I've had some fantastic games. I've got a bunch of the guys in Canberra that I'm quite good mates with now from playing them at CanCon. I've got friends in Bendigo from going to events there, and there's so much more.
Yeah. It's something that I think if you're in the wargaming community, I mean, obviously we're talking about Sigmar, but any wargame, go to an event. It really gives you a new perspective on your hobby, and even just as we were just saying before, just talking to people. Seeing people and then meeting people and seeing how others do the same hobby. It's really cool, and the people you meet, the atmosphere itself. It's something that, I mean, having a game with your mates is cool, but it's not the same as something like, say, CanCon with 200 people, 200 like-minded people, all enjoying their hobby together. I mean, that's an amazing experience.
Yeah, CanCon, I don't think in almost 20 years of hobby, especially this CanCon just gone, I've had any experience in hobby quite like CanCon. That was unreal. And especially the people aspect. I know, unfortunately, you weren't there. You had your daughter at CanCon, which is fair enough. To why I didn't come. Or,
No, I was at CanCon.
no, sorry, not CanCon. The barbecue before is what I'm talking about.
Oh, the barbecue.
The
Yeah,
barbecue before. Andrew was being a good family man.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but the barbecue before, like we organised, there was 100 war gamers